Watch closely. This isn't just a random restaurant brawl in a quiet European corner. This is the moment a 5-year global manhunt finally ended in blood and broken glass. The man running for his life is Marcus. The man chasing him is Daniel. They were best friends for 20 years, until Marcus decided that friendship was worth exactly $25 million. In 2007, Daniel hit a $38 million jackpot. After taxes, he walked away with $27 million and a target on his back he didn't even see. Marcus was the only person Daniel trusted. So when Marcus pitched a distressed sale on a $15 million property, promising to double Daniel's money, Daniel didn't hesitate. He sat in a sleek office, signed the deeds, and wired the funds. But the office was a rental. The lawyers were paid actors. The second that $25 million wire cleared, Marcus vanished. He didn't just steal the money, he stole Daniel's future. Tonight, we reveal the calculated scheme Marcus used to disappear, and how Daniel spent everything he had left to hunt him down. From the lottery stage to a European prison cell, this is a story of ultimate betrayal.
This story is based on real events. However, the names, faces, and identifying details of the people involved have been changed to protect their privacy. All characters are AI-generated or fictionalized, and any resemblance to real individuals is purely coincidental. This is done to ensure the safety and confidentiality of those affected.
It started with a Tuesday. Nothing about that morning suggested it would be the last ordinary day of Daniel's life. He had spent 15 years doing what most people do without thinking about it, waking up before dawn, working 60-hour weeks, and falling asleep too tired to dream. He was not a lucky man. He had never believed in luck. He stopped at a gas station for coffee. Habit, not hope, made him reach for a lottery ticket. He tucked it into his sun's visor and forgot about it completely. 3 days later, he found it. He checked the numbers once, then again. Then he sat down on the floor of his kitchen and did not move for a very long time. $38 million. After taxes, after the paperwork and the press and the distant relatives who came crawling out of every forgotten corner of his past, Daniel was holding $27 million. He was the wealthiest man in his zip code. He was also, for the first time in his adult life, genuinely afraid. Because money does something to people. It does not reveal who they are. It reveals who they have always been, but never had the reason to show you. Daniel knew this, so he kept his circle small. He trusted exactly one person. He trusted Marcus. 20 years is a long time to know someone. Marcus had been there through the bad breakups, the job losses, the years when both of them were eating cereal for dinner and pretending it was fine. He was the one who drove Daniel to the lottery headquarters to claim the check. He stood in the background while cameras flashed, and he told Daniel afterward, "Stay humble. Keep your head down. Do not let this change you." Daniel thought that was the most selfless thing anyone had ever said to him. He was wrong about almost everything. What Daniel did not know, what he could not have known, was that Marcus was drowning. Hidden debt, failed investments, a real estate career that looked polished from the outside and was rotting underneath. Marcus had spent years building a life that looked successful, and it was all held together with borrowed money and borrowed time. When Daniel won, Marcus did not feel joy for his friend. He felt relief for himself. He did not ask for a handout. That would have been too obvious, too easy to refuse. Instead, he started talking about legacy. He would sit with Daniel over dinner and speak quietly, almost reverently, about the dangers of idle wealth. He said 27 million sounds like a fortune, but it disappears faster than you think if you do not make it work for you. He planted the seed carefully. He watered it with patience, and then he waited for it to grow. By autumn of 2007, Marcus was ready. He told Daniel he had found something extraordinary, a high-end commercial complex seized by the bank, available only to immediate cash buyers, A window of opportunity that would close within days. A chance to turn wealth into an empire. To make the lie feel like a truth, Marcus went to extraordinary lengths. He took out a loan. He used it to rent a premium executive suite for 30 days. He furnished it with mahogany desks and leather chairs. He hired a professional receptionist. He paid 2 struggling actors to sit in on meetings dressed in tailored suits, playing the role of seasoned real estate attorneys with the quiet confidence of men who had done this 1,000 times. When Daniel walked through the doors of Marcus Wealth Properties, he was overwhelmed. He saw the legal files stacked on the credenza. He saw the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling glass. He saw his best friend standing behind a desk that cost more than his first car, looking like a man who had always been destined for this room. Marcus laid out the forged documents with the calm precision of a surgeon. He explained the numbers with the rehearsed ease of someone who had practiced this speech alone in the dark for months. He guaranteed a 50% return within 6 months. He made it sound not just plausible, but inevitable. Daniel felt something he had not felt in years. He felt like a partner, like someone whose money was not just sitting in a bank, but building something real. On October 1st, he signed the papers. He authorized a wire transfer of $25 million, keeping $2 million in his personal account as a safety net. He shook Marcus's hand and drove home feeling like the smartest man alive. 2 days later, he brought Marcus lunch. The glass doors were locked. The sign had been scraped off the wall. The mahogany desks were gone. The receptionist was gone. The leather chairs, the legal files, the carefully constructed illusion of an empire, all of it gone. Daniel stood in the empty hallway for a long time, holding a paper bag of food that would go cold. He called Marcus. The phone rang once and went to voicemail. He called again and again, 30 times over 4 hours, sitting in his car in the parking garage, watching the elevator doors that never opened. Then the number was disconnected entirely. He drove to Marcus's apartment. The door was unlocked. Inside, the closets were empty. The drawers were empty. The refrigerator had been cleaned out. Every photograph had been taken from the walls, leaving only pale rectangles on the paint where they used to hang. Marcus had not just stolen the money, he had erased himself. Daniel would later learn that the preparation had taken months. The fake passports, the offshore accounts spread across 3 continents, the alias identities built slowly and quietly while Daniel was busy celebrating their so-called partnership. Marcus had been planning his disappearance from the moment he decided to build the office. He had rehearsed this ending, while Daniel was still reading the beginning. The next year was a blur of police reports that led nowhere. Because Daniel had authorized the wire, the bank had no legal obligation to recover the funds. The police were skeptical. From the outside, it looked like a business deal between friends that had gone wrong. Proving intent, proving fraud, proving that the entire enterprise had been a fabricated lie from the start. That was a different matter entirely. Daniel realized that if justice was going to come, he would have to go and find it himself. He used his remaining $2 million to hire the best private investigators he could find. He became a student of international banking law, fugitive recovery, and the architecture of financial fraud. He followed leads from the Caribbean to Southeast Asia. He spent nights in dark rooms, staring at photographs on a laptop screen, at old pictures of himself and Marcus from 2006, trying to find in those frozen smiles some clue he had missed. There was never a clue. Marcus had simply decided, and Daniel had simply trusted. By 2011, the money was nearly gone. Daniel was living in cheap motels, moving from city to city, his hair going gray faster than it should have. His eyes carrying the particular hardness of a man with one remaining purpose. People who met him during those years would later describe him the same way. They said he looked like someone who had already survived the worst thing and was simply waiting for it to be over. Then a breakthrough. A wire transfer for a luxury rental in a small coastal town in Italy was flagged by one of his investigators. The name on the account matched a known alias Marcus had used in a failed transaction years earlier. It was a thread, a thin one, but it was the first real thread in 4 years. Daniel booked the next available flight. He did not tell the authorities. He had learned by then that alerting authorities created noise, and noise gave men like Marcus time to move. He rented a room above a bakery near the coast and began watching. For 22 days, he watched a small bistro near the water. He watched the fishermen arrive in the morning and the tourists arrive by afternoon. He drank espresso he could not taste and ate food he could not enjoy. He watched and he waited. On the 22nd day, a man walked in through the front door of the bistro. He was heavier than Daniel remembered, older. He had shaved his head completely. He moved with the easy comfort of someone who believed themselves safe, who had slept well for years, who had long since stopped looking over their shoulder. But Daniel knew that walk. He would have known it anywhere. He waited until Marcus had been seated, until the wine had been poured, until he was settled and comfortable and entirely unprepared. Then Daniel walked across the room and sat down at his table. For 10 seconds, neither of them spoke. The restaurant moved around them, glasses clinking, voices layering over each other in Italian, the smell of garlic and sea salt in the warm air. 10 seconds of absolute stillness between two men who had once been the closest of friends. Marcus did not apologize. He did not offer explanations or excuses or the money back. He looked at Daniel with the expression of a man who had long prepared for this moment and had decided to meet it without flinching. He smiled and said, "It has been a long time, Dan." That was the breaking point. 5 years of motel rooms and cold coffee and dead ends and the particular grief of betrayal by someone you loved. It came out of Daniel all at once. He did not plan what happened next. He simply stopped containing it. When the carabinieri arrived and pulled them both apart, Daniel was bleeding from his hands and breathing like a man who had just surfaced from deep water. But something in him, something that had been wound impossibly tight for years, had finally released. He knew what happened next. Once Marcus was in the system, the global warrants would find him. The aliases would unravel. The offshore accounts would be traced. The walls, all of them, would close in. It was over. Today, Daniel lives a quiet life. There are no millions, no cars, no empire. He works a regular job and stays out of the spotlight and does not talk about those years unless someone asks him directly, and even then, he chooses his words carefully. Marcus is serving a 20-year sentence for wire fraud and identity theft across multiple jurisdictions. People ask Daniel sometimes if he regrets winning the lottery, if he wishes he had never bought that ticket, never checked those numbers, never signed his name on that October morning. His answer is always the same. He says the money was a curse, but the hunt was a cure. He lost his fortune. He found something harder to name and harder to lose. He knows now, in a way that cannot be taught and cannot be faked, exactly who he is and exactly what he is capable of. He says the most expensive lesson he ever paid for was worth every single penny.